Good evening and welcome to the March 14th, 2023 meeting of the Abington Board of School Directors. Happy Pi Day. I notice the attendance of all school board members. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Abington Board of School Directors has convened this evening's meeting at the Administration Building, and the public is welcome. In consideration of the health and safety of the school community, this meeting is also being broadcast live on the Abington School District YouTube channel. This meeting is being recorded and will be accessible on the district's website and cable channel no later than Friday, March 17th, 2023, to allow those members of the public who cannot participate to view the proceeding at a later time. Comments from citizens will be conducted in person and by phone. Information regarding participating remotely in public comment will be displayed on the screen at the time of public comment. This is a place where we hold dignity at a high regard. Your voices are respected and welcome in this space. Are there any additional agenda items to be brought about from my fellow board members? Okay. Comments from my fellow board members? Mr. Allen?
Nothing, thank you.
Ms. Frazier?
Well, once again, I enjoyed Footloose. I really enjoy going out to theater to see our kids, our talented kids, get to have a cathartic experience on stage, and it was enlightening, as always.
Excellent. Mr. Kay?
Nothing, thank you.
Dr. Mowry?
We are celebrating Women's History Month, and so I thought I might take a minute today to throw out a few names, see if we can pique our students' curiosity. In the arts and humanities, Joy Harjo, Toni Morrison, and in philosophy, Sylvia Wynter and Simone de Beauvoir. So I hope everybody's learning something about them.
Excellent. Thank you. Ms. Glasser?
Yes, I would also like to thank the students who put on Footloose. I got to see the performance, and it was wonderful, and they had so much passion for what they were doing. It was really exciting to be in the audience for. And also, happy Women's History Month. We recently lost Judy Heumann, who was a pioneer in the disability rights movement, so I want to take a minute to honor her and put her name forward as somebody to be thinking about this month as we think about a lot of the important women that have shaped the world we live in today. So, yep.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad?
Nothing at this time.
Ms. Fazy?
Nothing at this time.
Dr. Kleiman?
Thank you.
Dr. Fletcher?
Nothing at this time.
Okay, then we can begin with our board orientation for this evening.
We have some student council representatives with us.
All the better, yes.
Would Emma Brown please come forward? From Abington Senior High School.
An excellent last name.
I agree. Good evening, Dr. Fetcher, Mrs. Brown, and members of the Board of School Directors. My name is Emma Brown, and I am president of the Student Council Executive Board. Happy March and Women's History Month. Great to see you all. Starting off, on February 10th, 8 industry partners and 3 entrepreneurial members of the senior high faculty prepped and trained 44 members of the senior high's DECA branch in preparation for the Pennsylvania DECA Career Development Conference. Following this, winter sports have been very successful with their championships. On February 13th, Abington boys and girls swimming competed at the Suburban One League Liberty Division Championships. On February 27th, the boys swim team set 5 new school records while also qualifying for the state championships, which will take place this weekend. Congratulations to John Wright for winning the SOL Liberty Division Wrestling Championship. Also, great job to the boys and girls basketball teams that both made districts. The girls team is still playing in the state championships, so good luck to them. On February 17th, Abington Senior High hosted the course selection night. The past couple of weeks, lowerclassmen have been choosing their courses for next year. Students are very excited for all of the new class options and unique curriculum that is now being offered to them. On February 24th, the French classes welcomed French exchange students with a small welcome party and some French karaoke. It was definitely an unforgettable experience for all of the students. Also on February 24th, the A-Town Steppers got the opportunity to perform at the Lower Merion Cultural Fair. Great job to the group for all of their hard work and dedication. On March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, Abington Senior High performed the musical Footloose. It was a spectacular show with great reviews from students and faculty. I personally saw it twice and was amazed both times at the talent and hard work involved. Kudos to everyone who had a hand in the musical. Finally, on March 6th, the spring sports season officially begun. Good luck to all of the athletes. I can't wait to see what they accomplish. Thank you all and have a great rest of the month of March. Thank you.
Thank you. I am most disappointed that I missed the karaoke in French, or any language, that is. It's one of my favorite things to do.
There's a reason why they did not tell you about it.
Yeah, there probably is a reason why they didn't invite me.
Not the students.
Yes, I understand. At this time, I'd like Gabriella Odner to come forward from Abington Middle School.
Hello. At the middle school, our WEB, short for Where Everybody Belongs, student group and leaders hosted a 7th grade dance recently and will hold another for the 6th graders later this month. This group focuses on helping students new to the building with the transition and building relationships. We look forward to the selection of our new leaders in the spring who will help us welcome the new class of 6th graders who will join the middle school next year. The school beautification crew has begun painting the lockers inspired by their favorite books. We look forward to the finished products due to the amazing talents of our students. Tata took a second group of our members to Beat Street in February, and another 160 students had a great time dancing the night away. More recently, 120 of our 7th and 8th grade members enjoyed a night of bowling, pizza, and arcade games at Bolero. We look forward to our next event, a Tata movie night. The AMS Intramurals program has seen an explosion of over 90 6th graders from all teams and athletic levels participating and socializing in Newcomb, Ultimate Frisbee, Kickball, and 9 Square. We have seen them come together to make new friends, learn about the sport, promote teamwork, and just have fun. We are looking forward to introducing many of them to disc golf in our 3rd cycle starting in April. Students in the Going Green Club met and worked on painting rocks for our school spirit Abington Middle School Rocks Garden. Students in M4 have spent time this year building musical skills in a modern setting. This includes learning techniques for guitar, keyboard, drums, and music production. Students have also been creating their own music through means of songwriting and beat making. In March, the 2 M4 touring bands will be traveling to the Pennsylvania State Capitol in Harrisburg to participate in PMEA, Music in Our Schools Month. The band Eclipse will be performing a selection of songs including a cover of Paramore's 2023 release, This Is Why. Other members of M4 are preparing student performances for the Summer Sounds Concert Festival, which will feature music from AMS students and ASHS students. In February, the Builders Club made Valentines and put together snack bags for a homeless shelter. They also started a book train that will run through the month of March. This group is collecting new and or gently used books for ages 0 to 12 to be donated to the Mitzvah Circle through Kiwanis of Jenkintown. During their March meeting, the Builders Club started to prepare blessing bags, which are snack bags to be donated to individuals dealing with mental health and or addiction. By creating positive message notes to include in each bag, they will continue making the bags alongside the Key Club in April. Students also went outside and made chalk drawings and wrote positive messages along the AMS bus circle to help brighten our school community. We look forward to the spring where we will begin another sports season and continue the many clubs and activities our school has to offer.
Thank you very much for sharing that. A lot going on at this time of year.
It is always a pleasure to hear from our student representatives. Dr. Fetcher, we can proceed with this evening's honors.
Right. Thank you, Mrs. Brown. I had the opportunity as well to see the musicals both at the senior high school and the middle school. I was so pleased by the performances of our talented students and the dedication of our staff. I had the opportunity and was pleased to meet with the cast and crew to recognize and congratulate them on a job well done. This also afforded me an opportunity to listen to their experiences in theater in Abington School District. This was very moving to me to hear from our students, and tonight we will show a video video tribute of this recognition, but also captured some of their sentiments from the two meetings. Mr. Angelo Barrios and Mr. Daniel File are here this evening to recognize our theater department, as well as hundreds of students who made the performances of Willy Wonka Jr. and Footloose a success. I'd like to also thank the guidance of Dr. Matthew Harris, who is unable to be here this evening, for all his efforts in leading as well.
Thank you. I would ask our middle school staff, if you were involved in the production or a faculty member, if you could just come on up here. Thank you.
Any- Are there any students?
And if we have any students as well, come on up here. I know some of the high school students still look very young. You're welcome to come up. So I'd like to first thank Dr. Fetcher for visiting us and visiting with the students. It was a huge thrill for the kids, in addition to his continued support of the programs, which we know are so very important for our students. Our music theater production of Willy Wonka Jr. provided our middle school students a really amazing opportunity to express themselves, to learn, and a place for them to belong. And we sincerely appreciate that. Our students, as you know, some of them 6th graders, brand new to the building, along with our 7th graders, brand new to the building, were seamless as they joined the 8th graders who were veterans to our musical theater program. And we were just so amazed to see the kids on the stage and those behind the scenes working to perform such an amazing product. In addition to the theater program that we saw through the musical, we also created a new elective as part of the reconfiguration, which was a music theater lab. This was an offering that was available to 7th and 8th graders, and this is also a unique opportunity where we felt like we gave the students opportunity to music theater in a really special way. So we are excited to see the fruits of that and looking forward to what will continue in the future. So the very special people up here, let me introduce them and some others to recognize those leaders that have really made our program possible. In terms of the musical, I'd like to first introduce our new director, Ms. Gabriella Bloom, Ms. Knight, our producer. Not present related to the musical are Melanie Fishgold, Jordan Hayes, Rebecca Joseph, Brian Emmerman, and Tim Tressler. I'm happy to recognize Miss Melinda Walker, who is a past director of our musicals, but still currently serves as a faculty member who teaches our musical theater lab course. So in addition to these fine folks, I'd also like to recognize a number of our staff who have provided a significant investment to our program. They kept things together through COVID, as well as the reconfiguration to the middle school. And they are Lisa Bodine, Amanda Daly, Esther Eichler, Kerry Gold, Cheryl Jogan, Cheryl Marquette, Maggie Marsh, Danielle Martinelli, Jessica Michelle, Mindy Walker again, Dave Weatherall, and John Adams. If you would join me in congratulating our staff, our faculty, in their work in the classroom and their work on the musical, currently, in the past, and toward the future. Thank you. Now I'd like to pass things along to Mr. Barrios to share about the high school.
Good evening. Thank you very much, Mr. File. At this time, if I can ask the high school staff and students to please join me. I think we have a parent as well. While maintaining our existing focus on engaging students in learning and developing their skills across all aspects of theater production, we shared the following highlights from the 2022-2023 season. The cast, crew, and pit orchestra engaged a record number of students, according to the production faculty. This year, 150 students led and contributed across a variety of roles across the entire production, pre, peri, and post-production. The Abington Senior High School musical sold a record amount of tickets, according to the production staff. To be exact, we sold 2,340 tickets. We are already planning to increase community engagement for the upcoming school year. Closely correlated to the record sales is the planned transition to an online ticketing system that provides patrons a high level of convenience and provides students opportunities to be more active participants in the marketing and promotion of their school-sponsored production. We recognize the following staff, faculty, and student leaders for their contributions to our programming. Specifically, this year's production team, beginning with our student leaders. Cyrus Nassib, right here to my left, Senior Student Director. Audrey Moore, Senior Student Director. Samantha Alexander, 9th grade Student Director. With their dedicated staff and faculty directors and advisors, I introduce the following. Our co-directors, Mr. Timothy Myers and Miss Lori Wolf. Miss Nancy Voigt, Orchestra Director. Dr. Tara Moore, Set Designer and Builder. Now some folks who were unable to join us this evening. Miss Olivia Goodwin, Choreographer. Mr. Greg Rosenfeld, Business Manager. Mr. David Henry, Electrician for Audio and Lighting Support. I'll clap. Hopefully they're out in YouTube land somewhere watching. In addition to our other curricular and extracurricular performing arts programming at the senior high, countless other departments and content areas help students to build knowledge and skill sets that they apply to our fall play and musical theater productions. Notably, our acting and theater elective courses add significant value and meaning that is transferable to all our students involved in the musical. We also note that these elective courses leverage the use of the senior high's new black box theater for classroom projects, rehearsals, and presentations during the school day to extend opportunities in the fall play and musical theater productions in the auditorium theater space. Current acting and theater course faculty include Ms. Kristen Whitman, Ms. Cheryl Marquette. We also note Mr. Paul O. and Ms. Kristen Whitman's fervent and resourceful support for our dramatics programming, past, present, and future. Please join me in congratulating our Abington Senior High School student leaders, staff, faculty, parent on their production success this year and beyond. Thank you. We will now conclude with the presentation of a video of highlights from Dr. Fetcher's production, or not production.
Foreshadowing.
Someday.
Post-production student discussions this past week.
Dr. Fetcher was one of our guests at the musical, and he was completely floored with how amazing all of you were. So he did want to have some time with you.
Having the opportunity to see your play, from my perspective as a superintendent, truly brought joy to me as a person, but also represents Abington School District in an amazing way in this community.
I have done a lot of singing and dance and stuff since I was like younger. because both of my parents are involved in music. So I was introduced to that at a young age, which was nice, but it was never like anything big. And I also have been interested in science and math this year, but for me, this was a place where I felt more connected to a community.
I've been like in a couple shows before, but I really like this show because, I don't know, I really got to like experience like building a character. What we did in like the first couple days, like we made backstories for our characters, which I thought was really cool.
This experience, I feel like has like added so much to my personality, and like everyone in this community is so kind and like just like accepting, and I feel like this, well, first of all, gave me something to do after school instead of just being bored, and I think it improved a lot of my skills.
I feel like this was powerful to me because it was like something to look forward to, even if I had like a super bad day.
At the end of the day, I get to come to rehearsal and I get to be with all of my old friends and all of my new friends that I've met, and it makes me so happy.
This place is amazing. It means so much for me to be here enjoying all of this. I really love it.
It was a lot to handle, but it really made me think about how I can express myself in different ways.
To say that theater helped me is not true. Theater saved me.
So the experience was good for me, and thank you, Ms. Bloom, for teaching us this, teaching this amazing cast.
The amazing thing that I always feel when I have an opportunity to speak to all those who are involved in the theater is the connections that you make with other people.
Theater in general kind of puts people together, and it makes people like one big family.
I've always had this dream to be a part of a big friend group, and I think stage crew and just theater as a whole has just allowed me to fulfill that, and it's just amazing.
My dad talks about this a lot with each show is a completely individual experience, in that you will never be doing these songs with this group of people with this dynamic, and it's just that experience of being part of something that everyone needs to contribute to, and then it does, and the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
It's taught me from a young age to work in a large group and be professionals as a group for me, and being able to communicate and work effectively for a larger goal. I think a lot of times, if people aren't part of a program like that, they forget that it's not just you.
Playing for a singer is something a lot of band kids just aren't exposed to, just because we do we do concerts just by ourselves, or we do practices. Playing with the singer is something very different to us, and it exposes us to a lot of new stuff.
Being able to work together with the cast, the crew, costume crew, everything has been really, really valuable, and it's also just really, really fun to be able to just work on every aspect of musical that I can.
But the experience I had with the Abington Theater Department is something that I wouldn't trade for the life of me, because my big fear coming into the school year this year was that I wouldn't know anyone, I wouldn't be able to make such strong connections that I have made. I've met some of the best friends that I have in the play this year.
And being able to go through this process with them, it basically shaped me as a person. I had no idea what I wanted to do, after high school, for the past half a decade. And then I got on that stage and I knew exactly what I wanted. I wanted to do that every day of my life for the rest of my life. And it changed me completely.
Many of you spoke about how such an impact this has had on your life. And some of you spoke about how you might not have gotten into theater unless someone encouraged you. So my challenge to you is to encourage younger students in our elementary schools to pursue this. As a superintendent, on behalf of Abington School District, but even the impact that it's had on me personally to lead this district of fine students who are amazing and doing amazing things, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for doing what you do for our community, but also to inspire a lot of students who may not have found this yet. So thank you very much. I want to congratulate you. Keep doing what you're doing. You're awesome. Thank you. There are no further honors this evening.
That was beautiful. If I could just say, I take great pride in knowing that students have ownership over this. Seeing senior directors and a 9th grade director, I am blown away because the legacy lives on. So seniors, you get to give back, and 9th graders, you get to carry that mantle up and then bring others to take that place. So I'm incredibly proud of you. And for the teacher leaders, thank you for all you do. I know the work that you do, the dollar amount does not match because you go above and beyond. So I appreciate your time, your effort, and the output. The testimonies were amazing. Thank you. Fellow board members, anything that you would like to say before we move forward?
Can I just add, my daughter was a student director for 2 or 3 years during high school. And so I got to sort of watch from a distance the amount of work and effort it takes to put on one of those productions, and the extraordinary talent and commitment of our faculty and our student community. And the arts in Abington, in a lot of ways, really are the jewel in the crown. So hats off to you all for a great year. And we look forward to more.
Floor is open. Any other comments? We all agree. Amazing job.
Yeah.
Thank you. At this time, we will open up with comments from citizens. Agenda item number 4. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number for public comment is 267-715-3717 and is featured on the screen at this time. You may call in on your mobile or landline phone, or if you're within the room, you may use the mics to the left or to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Joe Rooney. First, that's pretty amazing that 2,000 tickets were sold for the high school play. Just how many nights was that? You can't
Friday,
answer it.
Saturday.
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and 2 shows on Saturday.
It's hard to follow up on that. I just have some mundane questions. I saw that the contract, the memorandum of understanding for the ASAA is going to be voted on tonight, so I hope it doesn't look like it's that busy of an agenda, that there'll be some interesting discussion about it. So I had a couple of questions. First one is, I'm sure that several of you all worked on it and can fill in the blanks. So number one is, how much does it cost? So just a total number for the salaries, but also salaries and benefits would be great. And if you could, which directors worked on this memorandum or contract, whatever you're calling it right now, and how many meetings were there? And just for people who are watching, haven't had a chance, I just looked, and on the back of it are the number of days, so it's between 228 and 198 days. So that's, does that mean that there's 7 to 12 weeks off for everybody that's covered by this contract? And then the next question is, I noticed there's a $2,500 stipend every year for people that have doctorates. And in the idea of diversity, it would be really awesome if that was included. I have nothing against, I don't particularly value a doctorate degree, and I'm not impressed with what I see usually, because people usually know a lot about very little with a doctorate. But are there stipends offered for 20 years of military service so we could attract some people like that. Stipends offered for 10 or 15 years of business experience, and they come in and they can enrich the school district with that incredible background also. It seems like it's a little bit myopic just to do that. And then the last question is, we have a lot of school district employees that are on the board right now. So in the idea of pattern bargaining for school district employees, and there are some that are right now covered under a similar contract at another school, is it a perceived conflict of interest if they vote on this, or do they excuse themselves from it? Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional speakers within the room? Please be sure to state your name and address, and then we'll go to the line.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Jean Charles. Can you hear me okay?
If you could just step up, I want to make sure I get every word.
Okay. I'm
Thank
Karen
you.
Jean Charles. I'm on Osceola. That was fantastic. The musical, I really enjoyed that presentation. I am here tonight to talk about the equitable practices data that's on the school district website. I was taking a look at that, and I printed it out because I noticed that for the Keystone exams, there are reports reporting here the results for literature, algebra, and biology. And I noticed that the algebra is broken down to high school and middle school. And I took a look at it, and the data is even like before the pandemic, right? The middle school scores, eyeballing this graph here, it's about maybe an average of 85 or so, right, on the graph. And then on the high school side, it's significantly lower, to the point where if I had to eyeball this and guess the average, I'm guessing probably around 40. So my question is, what happened between the transition from the middle school to the high school with algebra? And are we looking at any other subjects to see what's happening? Because I don't know. I mean, I would like an explanation for the data. And is anyone really looking at this? And what does it mean? What does it all mean is what I want to know. Because it seems like there is just a big gap in the scores from middle school to high school. So that's my question.
Thank you so much. Any other speakers within the room? Mr. Lutz?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 1797. Please state your full name and address.
In the scores from middle school.
Hi.
To high school.
When I'm watching on TV, there's somebody else speaking. Is it my turn?
So there is a little bit of a lag, but if you turn your device down, we can hear you live.
Number 179.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. Okay, this is Tara Ng. I'm on Gregory Road in Bridal, PA. First, I'd like to say good evening. I'm calling to address several concerns. First, I'd like to ask the administration and school board to acknowledge that while we have many great things happening in our school district, such as the amazing musicals that were featured tonight, the district is far from perfect. We have problems just like many other districts. You have a tough job, and I surely don't have all the answers, but from a parent's perspective, it seems that understaffing is our #1 problem. The district has created a vicious cycle where the school is understaffed, so aides and security staff are currently in the buildings are overwhelmed and probably burn out quickly. My guess is being an aide in our district is a very challenging job, especially given the hourly rate that they are paid. Understaffing creates a chaotic environment, which makes it more difficult to retain current support staff and to hire new qualified staff. Based on numerous accounts from parents and students, the staff-to-student ratio at the high school is insufficient to maintain order in the hallways and bathrooms. There are terrible videos circulating between students of fights and assaults in our schools. Bathrooms in both the middle school and the high school are constant trouble areas where there are fights, drugs, vaping, destruction of school property, and in some bathrooms, unsanitary conditions. The fact that many bathrooms in the middle school are inaccessible to kids because they are locked is extremely concerning. The school may have reasons for locking bathrooms, such as kids misbehaving in bathrooms and lack of staff to monitor them, but the solution isn't to lock 80% of the bathrooms. The district needs to fix the behavior and staffing problems. Recently, the district has been in the spotlight because of its sizable fund balance. I'm happy to pay school taxes and even support tax increases periodically, but only if the money is being used as intended, which includes providing a safe and healthy environment in all our schools. At the end of the 2022 school year, the fund balance was roughly $31 million, and I believe the estimated fund balance at the end of this school year is reported to be around $16 million. The district needs to spend that money to hire more staff so our kids can use the bathrooms and aren't constantly exposed to fights. So I have several questions. One is, what are you doing to attract more support staff? How many requisitions are currently open for aides and security staff at the middle school and high school? Why doesn't the district use its large fund balance to fix staffing issues, which could mean you have to pay more competitive wages? Also, a common complaint amongst parents is that when there are problems at the schools, they either get no response from the school administration or problems are swept under the rug. What mechanism is in place to ensure that building principals are accurately communicating the challenges they are facing with respect to student behavior, bullying, and fighting to the superintendent and member of the school board? I shouldn't be hearing that these issues are surprising to district administration and school board members. Perhaps Mr. File and Mr. Barrios need to report monthly to Dr. Fetcher and the school board on these issues so everyone is in the loop and coordinating solutions to these problems. Number 3 is, what are you doing to fix the inaccessibility of bathroom problems at the middle school? And lastly, the district has an anti-bullying committee, so I'd like to know if this committee has a mandate to present a plan or findings to the school board at some point, and how can we ensure that this committee is facilitating real change that improves the climate in our schools? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time and your voice. Mr. Lutz?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 6774. Please state your full name and address.
Hello?
Hi, we can hear you. If you have a device on in the background, you can turn it down and we can hear you live right now.
Okay, this is Jackie Shuppelman from Doris Road in Abington. I'm also following up for who had just called in prior to me. I was very concerned when it was brought to my attention that a video was going around of a student who was, my son's words, jumped at the school. I had emailed Mr. Barrios my concerns, and his response was, I quote, "Thank you for sharing your concerns and feedback with me. The administrative team and I have adjusted some of the safety measures to cultivate more responsible conduct from the small population of students." There was no explanation as to what those adjustments were. I'd like to know what those adjustments were, what the current safety measures are at the high school, and where I can find that information at. Communication is key, and I find that Abington doesn't like to address any of these issues. It's easy to promote everything that's great at the district, but we can't ignore what the problems are. Another issue I had, was with the lunch and learn. Having half of the high school eat lunch at the same time is not working. I had been mentioning this to the administration since September, and again, really getting no answers, being told that there are no issues. Had asked if a survey could go out to staff and students, and they have refused to do so, which to me is telling me that they don't really care about parents' concerns or the concerns of the students. Before you thank me for my voice, I would just hope that everyone is actively listening to concerns that parents are bringing to the school board, and hopefully there will be some discussion tonight instead of just moving on to the next agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 1468. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is John Breen. I live on the 200 block of Runner Street in the Jenkintown section of Abington. I'm calling to express two concerns. First, I would echo the previous caller's concern about fighting. My children have witnessed fights in the hallways as well as in the bus lines, and they've also seen videos that have been distributed across social media. And in all instances, there appears to be an absence of adult supervision or school staff who are available to immediately intervene. The second concern I have is related to the bathroom access. There appears to have been repeated incidents, both at the middle school and the high school, of bathrooms being unavailable and kids having to travel extra floors in order to use the bathroom. during school. It's not clear if this is a plumbing problem or, again, if this is a way to limit bad behavior, which seems to be an issue. But both cases seem to be due to lack of staffing, and given the school's budget surplus of over $30 million, it seems unreasonable. And I would like to hear what the school's plans are to address these issues.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 2161. Please state your full name and address.
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Oh, hi. Sorry. Hi, this is Beth Kerr from Chester Avenue in Abington. I'm calling to discuss the girls' bathroom situation at the middle school as well. Over the last week or so, many students have complained that there are very limited bathrooms available to be used specifically for the middle school girls. From what I understand, there's roughly 7 available bathrooms in the middle school designated for girls, but only one is currently open. It's on the ground floor of the building. The girls from the 3rd floor, the 8th graders, must go all the way down to the ground floor to use that one available bathroom, and there's usually a line. One example my 8th grade child gave me on Friday was that of the one bathroom that was open, one stall was completely unusable because there were used feminine products stuck on the toilet paper rolls. She came from the 3rd floor just to find that one bathroom that was open, and it had a lengthy line. A single bathroom with 4 to 5 toilets is not only insufficient and unhygienic, it's also non-compliant with PA state code. Kids shouldn't have to strategize every day whether or not they can make it to the bathroom in time. As it pertains to our middle school, PA Code Title 22, Chapter 55, Subsection 2, states that for students in grades 4 to 8, there shall be a minimum of 1 flush toilet for every 20 girls and 1 flush toilet and 2 urinals for every 40 boys. With approximately 1,000 female students in the middle school building, that means there's currently 1 toilet available for every 200 young teenage girls. Understandably, circumstances may arise that render facilities out of order temporarily, but that should be an exception and not the norm. Repairs should be done quickly and temporary solutions readily available. Functional bathrooms should not be locked. Bathroom access is not a luxury. I understand sometimes there are also safety concerns, such as vandalization of the facilities or fights occurring. You've tried locking bathrooms and it hasn't improved anything. It's time to try something else. Denying the use of the bathroom to all students is not the solution to any of these problems. I think the short answer is that our middle school students need more adult supervision, gender-appropriate monitors to sit outside of the bathrooms, hallway monitors to keep kids from misusing bathroom passes to roam the halls, and rules need to be enforced or rewritten so that they can be enforced. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your voice. Mr. Lutz, can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Thank you. And no additional speakers within the room? Dr. Fetcher?
First, in terms of the student achievement, and we have a presentation at one of our future board meetings coming up in regard to student achievement, but I would also ask if there are specific questions, Ms. Charles, that you make an appointment with the high school administration, and also a member of our teaching and learning department to review the scores and also some of the strategies on addressing those scores. I would ask that Mr. Barrios please follow up with that and to ensure that that meeting occurs. In terms of the shortages of hall aides and security guards, we do have, it is not a budgetary issue, we do have many openings within those positions. Our security company is trying to fulfill as many as they can. In terms of the training that has to occur for the security guards and getting additional people, we've requested many more people and are just awaiting them to be able to fulfill it. We've also entertained the idea of more than one security company in order to try to do that, but it appears that most of the school security companies are having shortages in employees. However, that does not mean that, we have to stop our monitoring. One thing that I've asked the administration in both the middle school and the high school is to do as many rotations throughout the building. I've also asked members of central staff to attend the high school and the middle school to lend support as adults within the building. I was there today myself, and monitoring bathrooms and things of that nature, and hallways. The issues of violence, I too second that concern within our community at large, not only in our schools, but also in the Abington and Rockledge communities, as there is an increase in violence and fighting. And it is a huge concern for me, as well as many members of our community. We have worked together with the Abington Police Department, as well as with some of our local organizations to brainstorm ways to reach out and try to address this issue. This is something that, is a call to all of us in the community, not just the school, because obviously if there are issues that are occurring outside of Dunkin' Donuts or out in a park, they do spill over into the school. And we will address everything that occurs within our building. And we also will do proactive measures in order to try to prevent these issues from occurring. As far as some of the videos that have been circulating, there are severe disciplinary consequences for individuals who are engaging in these behaviors, and which could lead up to, according to the board policy, expulsion from school or placement in an alternative environment. And that has occurred on a number of the occasions that have happened. To say that we are trying to sweep that under the rug is very insulting to me, as all disciplinary issues are recorded in terms of through every student file, and there are reports that are run and presented to central office administration, to me and my team on a regular basis. We also use that data to look for trends in different areas within the school to see where we need more supervision. We also use that data to look at the types of behavior that are causing issues. It is a national problem, vaping in our schools and vaping in bathrooms. And when I have the opportunity to speak with many superintendents in this county, it is a huge issue, and so is the increase in violence. And that's even within our county, but I have the opportunity to work with National Superintendents Organization, and also this trend continues. That does not excuse the fact that it's happening in our school and the fact that it is ours to address. But I can assure you that we are not sweeping anything under the carpet. We are dealing with these issues head on. And as far as the bathrooms being locked, first I would like to address the middle school bathrooms. Over the last week, we had a major issue in terms of a plumbing issue with a sewage pipe, which required the one side of the building's bathrooms to be shut down. This was a 40-foot pipe that needed to be replaced, and in order to replace that pipe, all water needed to be shut down in the building, and if we did not close those bathrooms, school would have to have been closed. The repair occurred over the weekend, this Saturday. And Mr. Berge, can you expand on anything that I missed in terms of this repair? It was very extensive.
Yes, at the middle school, to my knowledge, it was only the Highland Avenue side of the school that was ever shut down. I can imagine maybe on occasion other other restrooms for cleaning had to be shut down for brief periods of time, but it was only on the Highland Avenue side of the building. A pipe had split and began to leak on the ground floor of the building. So sewage was leaking onto the ground floor of the building. In bringing contractors on 2 occasions, they felt the root cause was under the ground, a pipe under the ground leaving the building. We had contractors try and clear it on a number of occasions, and the split pipe that is above the ceiling, we tried patching on a number of occasions. And every time when the next day of school started, it began to leak. We tried other options. We tried leaving some restrooms open that we knew had special needs requirements. But through the process, the only solution was to shut down the building for a day, potentially 2 days, replace the pipe. At this point, we think it's resolved. It hasn't leaked or backed up Monday or Tuesday of this week, but we're still monitoring.
In terms of lunch and learn, I'd like to address the concern that it's being ignored or that no one is addressing this. I had charged the high school in the fall with creating a committee including parents, students, the food service director, as well as teachers and administrators, to have a review of the lunch and learn change that was new within the schedule. Anytime that we have a new schedule or a new schedule change, it is essential that we collect data, look at this change, evaluate the change, and then look to ways that if we need to modify such a change. So I understand that that group has been meeting. We are further extending the high school portion of the reconfigured grade spans committee and launching this month to do specifically lunch and learn, but also look at our schedule and also look at some possible alternatives that could be put into place. So that is occurring. I met with the senior high faculty, I believe it was last Monday, and all staff members throughout the district, because of our grade span reconfiguration, were asked a few questions in terms of the schedules and the changes that have occurred over this past year, and that feedback has been presented not only to me but to the administrative team, and we are addressing any concerns that have arisen from those questionnaires that we have given to our staff, and further exploring the data that was presented there. I'm trying to make sure I... In terms of any openings, I will take this opportunity as an advertisement. We do have openings for hall aides. We have openings for playground aides. We have openings for paraprofessionals, substitutes, and if you're interested in working security, I am sure that we can put you in touch with our security company. So I just want to take a moment for that plug, as these positions are extremely hard to fill, and this is also, as you know, and you go into many places of business, this is a current issue that many entities are facing. So we have increased our advertisements for these types of openings. We've used social media to the best we can. We will continue to put blasts out for openings to try to, attract candidates for this. And in the interim, we will use all personnel to address any of these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. O'Donoghue, can you speak towards who is able to vote on the agreement for today, and if anyone has to not vote due to their position that they currently serve in?
No board member, as I understand it, has a conflict of interest as recognized by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's Public Official and Employee Ethics Act. So all members of the board are permitted to vote on the Act 93 compensation plan.
Thank you. That takes us to agenda item number 6. I'm sorry.
Could I just? Yeah, I just wanted to, if I could, Dr. Fetcher, you mentioned at one point in your comments that the district is working with the Abington Police Department to try and address some of the violence at the high school and the middle school, but I'm wondering if there are other community stakeholders that the district has reached out to, and if you could
Sure.
sort of be more specific about that.
Yeah, absolutely. We have an Abington Community Task Force, which also includes various peoples. We've reached out to some of the religious affiliates within our community to as far as where our students are members. We are trying to have a large gathering with individuals who represent each of those entities. And also, with that, we'll be reaching out to the NAACP, as well as some resources within the township as well. So those are some of the entities to which we are reaching out. We are also taking a look at what areas this is occurring in terms of monitoring, and that's where the community policing, we're working with community policing in terms of programs, and we are also working with we have at the high school something called the Red Team, and it's working with a conjunction of the district attorney's office to come to look at alternatives to law enforcement for various different behaviors. So we have been doing that. There is an active youth aid panel within the senior high school, and that is new this year. So we are in a program through a study through Georgetown University to address various behaviors. We also have our school-wide positive behavior support program, and we obviously use that more as preventative rather than reactionary when it comes to different behaviors.
Thank you.
I had a couple of things. I was thinking that in regards to the exam results, and whenever these things happen, when the exams come back and the numbers, whatever the numbers reflect, good, bad, indifferent, I think that it would be good to have some sort of an explanation on the website with it, explaining what numbers mean, whether it's a video, documentation. We can always do more orientations here, not that we don't do enough, but we do a lot. We could always have more. But I think it's definitely an understandable concern when you see numbers and you do not live in this world. You do not understand what they mean. They might not mean what you think they do. But regardless, I think that whatever the numbers are, that there should be a clear understanding given to the parents so that they can go through these things and know what things refer to. Regarding the toilets, I was wondering if a memo had been sent out to just tell families about what had happened over the weekend and to prepare them with the bathroom situation that resulted. I know that might help. I don't know if that went out. The other question I did want to talk about a little bit was the either the locked bathrooms, closed bathrooms, the girls' bathrooms that the different callers called about. If we could figure out, is the information we were given tonight, is that right? Is it accurate? I know if parents aren't here, they rely on their children, and children may know certain things, may not know other things. But whether these girls' bathrooms, the situation was as it was, how do we fix it so this doesn't keep happening? And then lastly, in regards to the fighting, and I know that this isn't what we're talking about, maybe we're getting close to a time where we need to have some sort of an open forum again with the police, with all these different things we're doing, not as an information thing for the parents just to say, hey, we're doing this, that, and the other, but to have a real dialogue with them, what their expectation is, what their understanding is. I think that there are many things going on in Abington that are really good, but I think they're also, as a parent of a child who was in the district and had his own share of issues, that there's always going to be those concerns that, is the district doing enough? Are they responding to me accurately, adequately? I think we have to be really careful with parents, that we have to remember that they're coming from a place of fear and concern. And although we know, or the administration knows what we're doing, the lack of information sometimes, even if it's something as simple as consequences are being doled out, parents don't know what that means.
Right.
And not that a specific case should be necessarily given out, but I think that it's fair to understand why a parent whose child was hit by another child, they want to know what happened. Like, okay, so what are you going to do to stop this from happening in the future? On the same token, as a parent, whenever these things, when my kid was in school, I sat him down and talked to him a lot about different things. Even when something happened, I said, I just want to make sure you didn't say anything, you didn't do anything, did you exacerbate it, was this really out of the blue, or did you say something to this kid? Not that it forgives it, but as parents, we need to play our roles in trying to understand it. I think coming and making these phone calls and coming and sending emails, it's a great thing to do because you need to get answers. I think we just need to be better at explaining why we can't give them the answers, the questions they're specifically asking. I don't mean to put anyone on the spot about the toilet thing, but I do want that caller and other callers to know whether our bathrooms being locked, a lot of them, are they not available? Because, that's going to be a concern for anyone. So that's just some of the things from the calls.
So first of all, I'll have Mr. File address the question about the bathrooms. Aside from what I explained over the last few days with the plumbing issue, I think that was fully explained. In terms of student disciplinary consequences, we are not legally permitted to share those consequences with anyone, even a victim. Mr. O'Donoghue, can you confirm that for us?
That is correct.
So we can say that it is being addressed and that we're following our disciplinary policy, and that's the extent that we can communicate.
Can we make that clear to parents?
We do.
Okay.
And it's not, and as a parent, when your child is a victim, that's never going to be good enough, and I understand that 100%, but we can't do it. We cannot say this student was suspended from school. We can say that we are taking this seriously and we are addressing it, in a very serious manner, and that's about the extent that we can say that. But from a parent perspective, and having lived through this as a parent, it is very disheartening to not know what is occurring. But unfortunately, legally, we cannot say this kid was expelled from school. The student is suspended from school.
Is there any reason why we can't have more concrete descriptions about policies and/or parameters for addressing certain kinds of behavior?
I do believe that your policy on school discipline addresses expulsion, addresses suspensions, and goes through a procedure of what steps must occur in order to address that. So we can do a review of that policy, but I do believe that it is pretty specific in terms of the outcomes and the types of suspendable offenses are listed within that policy as well.
That might be a good thing to do. It might be good to have an orientation that's general, but explains that to people who don't know how to access the different things and where they're going to find that information.
So speaking with two minds here, right? The mind of a school administrator and knowing the challenges of being a school administrator, and also a parent. You know, I have questions around, I keep hearing that there are these staffing shortages. What's the full complement? Like, what does the full complement look like at the middle school and at the high school? And how close are we to that full complement? And then I also would like clarification around the bathrooms, right? So before the plumbing issue, how many bathrooms were locked? Or were bathrooms being locked at all? And if so, how many? Because I've gotten a lot of the same kind of complaints from my personal children. And, you know, I sit with them and I tell them, you got to give school leadership the benefit of the doubt. These are the challenges that they're experiencing. And in the same breath, what's happening, right? Because we don't know. Like, I didn't know that there was a plumbing issue that caused half of the building's bathrooms to be shut down. And then the question is, before the plumbing issue, were bathrooms being shut down? And I can probably assume the why, but what's the why? And where do the bathrooms stand today?
At this time, I'd like Mr. File first for the middle school, and Mr. Barrios, I'm going to ask that you do the same for the high school. Can you also address, aside from the bathrooms, Mr. File, your number of security guards, approximate number of hall aides if you don't have the number, and then various openings that you may have in those positions as well, and also police staff within the building.
Sure. First, related to Mr. Kay's question, our goal, in conjunction with Mr. Berge's office and his staff, was to keep bathrooms open. There was that plumbing issue they were dealing with on a daily basis, and I think, you know, we shared the same feeling. We want to do whatever we can to keep bathrooms open. So that was our goal. In light of that, things were fluid throughout the day. Most specifically, one may have been locked. If things worsened, then another one was locked. It wasn't until Friday when we spoke, I got the sense that there was a big issue that they were taking care of over the weekend. So given our attempts to keep things going, we didn't put any message out as a whole. I will tell you, internally, we've had conversations in the past and more recently considering this more major issue of getting information to teachers to help kids, because I even encountered a couple of students who didn't know where to go, sixth graders, and just help direct them to where, you know, the bathroom was. So I certainly understand that issue. Just overall, and I know that the board members who were here last year heard feedback related to, you know, violence in bathrooms and so forth. That hasn't been a thing this year for our building. We have most bathrooms covered by adults most of the day. You know, that along with, I think, a lot of other factors, we have seen significantly less of those types of issues. I will say that we do have students who make mess with soap, sometimes write on things. There are temporary closures, but they are quick fixes. Our building staff is great about addressing, a turned over trash can or something very quickly because we want bathrooms open. We need them open. We all share in that. There's nobody in that school who wants kids inconvenienced. Bathrooms are not locked. All the bathrooms are open. You heard last year, those of you that may recall, feedback related to second floor bathrooms, which were not open. They were all open beginning September. So if you're getting other information, it's just not true. We do have all of our hall aide positions filled, and we have about 10. I don't have the exact number. We do have 3 security guards, and that is full for us, and we do have our school resource officer. I think I covered everything.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Evening. So at the senior high school, with the reconfiguration and construction, presently we have 26 student bathrooms. So we've added, a large number. They call them gang bathrooms. I don't like to call them that, but they're large group bathrooms. So we've definitely been presented with some challenges with respect to covering them. Currently, we have 5 hall aides. We've been allowed to have a total of 7. We're still trying to find 2 additional hall aides. In addition, we have 6 security guards with a supervising security guard that floats between the middle school and the senior high school. And we're currently looking to fill additional positions of the bathrooms throughout the senior high school. There was an incident last week that occurred that one of the callers referenced in interdisciplinary bathroom that was circulated on social media. A guard responded to that altercation within 30 seconds. This person was right outside the bathroom. Some kids went in, and he quickly interceded and broke up that altercation. Unfortunately, that is not reflected in the video that was circulated on social media. As Dr. Fetcher posited earlier, all disciplinary infractions with respect to violence have been dealt with accordingly. We aren't sweeping things under the carpet. We clearly, every day we make adjustments to our hall aide and guard schedule. Sometimes there are attendance issues, people call out sick, they aren't there, et cetera, and we will make adjustments on the fly. I know the administrative team and I, we've been circulating as much as possible, especially during lunch and learn or during times when these bathrooms incidents may occur. We've witnessed an uptick in the number of vaping incidents, and we think that's a national dilemma that school leaders are dealing with. Unfortunately, some of these emptied cartridges are flushed into the toilet system, and they can present some issues for us. Just to be clear, we cannot lock our bathrooms at the senior high school. They're wide enough. We do not have doors on the bathrooms. The faculty bathrooms do have doors that can be locked, but the student bathrooms have just a wide gapper that you can walk through. In the instance that we do have to close one down, they've been temporary, but I don't find that issue to be pervasive, so to speak.
Thank you.
I just have a quick, thank you so much for that information. Dr. Fetcher, I know every year Abington School District, along with all of the other school districts in Pennsylvania, report disciplinary data to the state in aggregate, obviously not, by student. I don't know if there is, I don't know how those data are aggregated, if it's on an ongoing basis or if you do it once at a particular point in the year, but if you could just give us a sense of sort of when that happens, and then I think it would be helpful at some point when those data are aggregated to maybe look at them, as an orientation and even do some comparison. It's hard to know with anecdotal experiences, not that they aren't meaningful, but it's just hard to know what level of problem we're dealing with. So if you could just give us a sense of the data collection and reporting, that would be
Sure. Every year we're required to do what is called a Safe Schools Report.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask Dr. Melchor to explain the process for the Safe Schools Report and the types of data that are collected.
Sure, thank you. The Safe Schools Report is submitted over the summer, so it includes all incidents over the course of the school year, both what are called state reportable incidents, which are incidents usually that involve violation of law. They also include any incident that involves law enforcement. That could be involvement of the school police officer, the SRO, or other members of Abington Township law enforcement. In addition to that, other disciplinary offenses that are not on the state reportable list are also reported in aggregate if they involve a suspension, either a out-of-school suspension or an in-school suspension. That data is all pulled from Skyward, where individual student data for discipline is located. The principals, on a periodic basis throughout the school year, will review that data, ensure that it's accurate, and then we also review that data with Abington Township law enforcement at the end of the school year, so that ultimately Chief Malloy, as well as Dr. Fetcher, need to sign off on the accuracy of that data to ensure that it reflects an accurate accounting of discipline incidents, law enforcement involvement, as well as the student actions, disciplinary actions that have been taken.
Yeah, I'm going to also ask Dr. Brown if you could speak to our equity initiatives, especially in regard to student discipline.
Following up on that question, one of the things that I know that both of the teams at the secondary schools have been doing this year regularly is looking at all, including the offenses that are listed for the Safe Schools report, also the other offenses that don't make that report, such as class cuts, things of that nature, on a regular basis. I know I've participated in meetings with individuals at both schools pertaining to that. With respect to some of the more proactive work as far as conflict resolution, I know that is a big step that has been undertaken at the middle school, specifically with peer mediation. I know with Mr. Files' team, Mrs. Doctor in particular, has done a great work implementing peer mediation this year at the middle school. And I know you've already mentioned, Dr. Fetcher, some of the things at the high school, specifically the red team and some of the other programs there. So I think that's probably the biggest highlight in terms of some of the work. But also, we try to focus with some of the teachers and the administrative staff on managing conflict in the moment, because we can analyze the data after the fact, and I think that's great. It helps us plan, but also trying to assess what our responsibility is in the moment as far as working with students to de-escalate situations, working with adults to de-escalate situations, so that we don't have a statistic in the first place. So there's a lot of work that goes into everything that leads up to the point of conflict, because once you're in that moment, it's it's hard to react all the time. So we do a lot of work on that end as well.
Thank you.
Could I just, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure that I'm understanding the numbers, and I wanted to follow up on Mr. Mohammed's question. So I understood Mr. File to say that the full complement of hall aides at the middle school is 10. Is that correct? And that's fully staffed?
I mean, I can give an accounting of the exact number.
Okay, well, roughly. But
but-
it's fully staffed is the point. Is that correct? Did I understand you correctly?
As of right now, yes.
Okay. And at the high school, Mr. Barrios, the right now fully staffed would be 7. Is that correct?
Are we talking guards?
I thought I understood you to be talking about hall aides.
Presently 5 hall aides.
Okay.
We're trying to hire 2 additional hall aides.
Okay.
2 vacancies.
Okay.
And we have 6 guards with a supervising guard that goes between the middle school and the senior high school. So a total of 7 guards, with 6 assigned full-time with a supervising guard.
These are security guards. Okay.
And you said you were looking to hire one more security guard?
We're looking to hire more than that.
More than the one?
Yes.
How many more?
I authorized 13.
Okay.
So that, and the number comes from the number, but the number of bathrooms, and ensuring that each bathroom, outside of each set of bathrooms, there could be a security guard. And at this point, I believe they're working on providing 3 and completing the training for 3 guards. But I have authorized 13, and that was because of addressing the bathrooms.
So that would make it, the high school and the middle school roughly proportional, say 7 adults per grade, distributed somewhat differently across between hall aides and security guards.
I think so. I can't add it all up right now. But for the number, it's more, the authorization that I gave the administration, the building administration, was based on the layout of the building and areas of need based on, as I mentioned before, we take a look at locations where issues are occurring and kind of chart that out.
I did the math wrong. This is why you should be doing it.
Yeah, I did it.
Okay, so 4 grades for the high school, 3 grades for the middle school. So it looks like, from one perspective, the high school is under-resourced.
At the current time, yes. But not if you add the 13 people we're trying to hire and the 2 hall aides, there's 15 more people.
Okay. Okay.
Which I
If you could put it in the form of a, like, paragraph, it would be easier for me.
in terms of having an additional 13 security guards in a school, that is quite a commitment to resources. And,
Right.
and I think that is important to note that that's to address the concerns which, we've discussed this evening. But I would also say that that is not a long-term solution.
Right.
And if you were to poll high schools in the area and ask how many security guards they have based on size, I think that number would be at the top or close to the top. I also think that it's important that we look at long-term solutions and also think about the type of environment that we'd like to
Yeah, I agree.
promote within our school district as well. So the authorization was given to the building administration, once again, I'll say it, as a temporary way to address and try to get as many people in as possible.
Thank you. That's very helpful. I appreciate that information.
I have a question about the underground pipe, Mr. Burgee. By any way, was it connected to the new construction, or is it separate?
Is that the middle school?
Oh, told me. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Said
at the middle
Highland.
school.
I was thinking high school, okay.
I know within the Commonwealth, a survey was given out to districts, and 2 of the greatest needs or the greatest concerns were staffing, and the second one was mental health and the ramifications of that. The increase in violence, sense of security, sense of safety, those are very important topics, and I think this time was well spent. I am encouraged about the plans moving forward, especially the community-oriented approaches. There are influences within our community that we need to pull together so that we see the change that we want to see. So I am excited about that. Those are my comments for that.
I will say that we are working to develop something more extensive community-wise, and as soon as we have that fully thought out and planned, we will, of course, bring that to the attention, at this board meeting. I see it in 2 different stages. The first is kind of the leaders within our community and community activists, and then more of an open forum following that. So I think it's important for all of the leaders in our community who have influence over our youth to come together to work together to try to come up with solutions. And then also, I feel that it is important for our community to come together in a kind of more of an open public forum.
One last thing comes to mind for me. That doesn't mean it's the last for the board. Usually when warmer weather comes around, we see an uptick in either in violence or fighting, not just within the school, but also around the school, around dismissal time, the pathways that students walk home. How are we addressing that, given that we're heading into spring? Is there a plan to address that?
I think in general, we're increasing security that we have on campus and around campus. And I know that the Abington Police Department is increasing patrol, especially around dismissal times. One of the large incidents that occurred in the community occurred 2.5 hours after dismissal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's essential that we work together. And as students leave school and go into different areas of the community. But I also charge the community with coming together and supporting and keeping your eyes open and working, together and communicating concerns, not only to the school district, but also the police department. And if I also ask that parents speak to their children and talk about the violence that is occurring and also the consequences and how it can essentially change your life if you are involved in a serious incident. And that is something that we will never solve as one entity, as a school district. We'll never solve it as a police department. Unless there is community support, and the best community support is that of a parent with a child.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And a coach, and a pastor, and a rabbi, and a priest, and anyone else who has influence over the youth that live in our community. I think we all have a role to play, and we will do that. So challenge accepted. Let's go. Let's do the work. Any other questions or comments?
For the middle school bathrooms, when can students expect them to be fully operational and open?
Are they fully operational at this time? My understanding was over the weekend they became fully operational.
Yes, over the weekend, we had ceilings pulled down. We had people literally up in the pipes above the ground floor, and they repaired. They actually had to replace 40 linear feet rather than 20 feet of 4-inch cast iron pipe. And at this point, it appears everything is functional.
So all bathrooms are unlocked currently?
Yes, the only time they would be locked, to my knowledge, in reference to facilities would be if there is vandalism or some sort of cleanup in the bathroom required, where a male custodian would have to be in when in a female's restroom.
Thank you.
Questions? All right. That takes us to agenda item number 6, approval of minutes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation to approve the February meeting minutes?
Yes. It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the minutes of the board meeting on February 14th, 2023, and the board meeting on February 28th, 2023.
Second?
This is a voice vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Ayes have it, and so moved. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for approval of the personnel addendum?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the changes in personnel as reflected in Personnel Addendum number 7.1.
Second?
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. The personnel addendum begins with item number 1 in the appointment of one professional employee for the 2022-2023 school year. Item number 2 is the changes of status for 4 professional staff members. Item number 3 is the request for a leave of absence for 1 professional employee. I bring your attention to item number 4, the retirement of Miss Patricia Carroll, teacher at Roslyn Elementary School, who has served the Abington School District for 30 years. Mr. Dennis Garvin, a math teacher at Abington Middle School, who has served the Abington School District for 24 years. The personnel addendum continues with hiring of substitute and homebound teachers, compensation for curriculum development, parent meetings, IEP meetings, and support personnel items. I bring your attention to item number 15 and the retirement of Ms. Dolores Foster, an aide at Copper Beach Elementary School, who has served the Abington School District for 19 years. I'd like to preempt the congratulations to the individuals who are retiring and thank them for their service once this action is approved.
Excellent. Any questions or comments from the board? I second the congratulations to our retirees. Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for permits for use of buildings and grounds?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the applications for permits for use of buildings and grounds as reflected in addendum number 8.1. All permits are subject to change per the provisions of the health and safety plan pertaining to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. The permit addendum continues to reflect requests for buildings and grounds for this time of year for meetings, sports, and other school events and activities. I would like to bring your attention to item number 287, and this is the class of 1973 reunion tour at Abington Senior High School.
Excellent. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for awards of contracts?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the awards of contracts as reflected in addendum number 9.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Tonight, for your consideration, we have 1 rejection of bids, 1 retroactive award of contract, and 1 change order. The rejection of bids is for one of the 30-passenger student transportation buses. This rejection is due to received bids exceeding the amount budgeted for replacement, as well as a lack of available inventory. The retroactive award is for our electric generation service for July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025. Our change order is for the Montgomery County School Entities Joint Purchasing Unleaded and Diesel Fuel. This is due to a change within company structure with operations being transferred from this subsidiary.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for advertisement for bids?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the advertisement for bids as reflected in addendum number 10.1.
Second.
We have a second, Dr. Fetcher.
Thank you, Ms. Brown. This is the rebid of the 1 replacement 30-passenger student transportation bus, and hopefully we'll get more favorable results at this time.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? I think it's a responsible gesture. Mrs. Flanagan?
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for the ASAA Memorandum of Understanding?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approve and authorize the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Abington Board of School Directors and the Abington Supervisors and Administrators Association, effective July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2026, as shown in addendum number 11.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Well, a committee of the Board of School Directors and the administration met with Abington Supervisors and Administrators Association, otherwise known as ASAA, to develop a memorandum of understanding between the Abington Board of School Directors and the Abington Supervisors and Administrators Association. The agreement in its full form was posted as of yesterday in public view for the entire public to have access to it.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the board? Just one statement from me. It is important to me as a leader that conflict of interest is something that we don't take lightly. So when it comes to sitting in these seats and negotiating, whether it be this contract or another contract, when I'm sitting here, I make sure that current administrators who serve on the board aren't in that negotiating table because they are current administrators. And when it comes to the teacher's contract, I will not be sitting at that table because I am currently a teacher. So I just wanted to put that out there that when it comes to things like this, I don't take them lightly. I take this responsibility seriously. And that's my comment for that. Any other additional comments or questions from the board? Mrs. Flanagan.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
Aye.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Dr. Mowry, can you please read the recommendation for the confidential student matters?
It is recommended that the Board of School Directors approves the confidential student matters as reflected in addendum number 12.1.
Second.
We have a second. Dr. Fetcher.
Keeping in mind the confidentiality of student matters, I can answer questions that you may have.
Questions or comments from the board? Mrs. Flanagan.
Mr. Allen?
Aye.
Ms. Frazier?
Aye.
Mr. Kay?
Aye.
Dr. Mowry?
Aye.
Mrs. Glasser?
Aye.
Mr. Mohammed?
Aye.
Ms. Feasy?
Aye.
Dr. Kleiman?
No.
Mrs. Brown?
Aye. Ayes have it and motion passes. Are there any other additional items to be brought about from my fellow board members? Dr. Fetcher.
Okay. I provide the conference attendance and professional leaves report and the capital improvements projects for your information.
Thank you. At this time, we are at agenda item number 15, which are comments from citizens. Comments from citizens are being conducted both in person and by phone. The phone number to participate in public comment is 267-715-3717 and is being displayed on the screen at this time. You will be able to join the meeting by calling in on your mobile or landline phone. If there's anyone present within the room, please use the mics to the left or to the right of you, and please be sure to state your name and address.
Good evening, Angelo Barrios, 900 Highland Avenue, principal of the senior high school. I just, on behalf of ASAA, I'm the president, and our membership, we just wanted to thank the school board for the vote of confidence and Dr. Fetcher for our contract moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your voice and for your service. Any additional speakers within the room? Please be sure to state your name and address.
Hi, Karen Jean Charles, Osceola. So I just wanted to make a statement or a comment about the fact you expressed that being insulted by the views that were expressed by parents are saying that, you know, the district is brushing things under the rug. Well, that's how parents feel, right? Because there's a lack of communication. When there's a bullying situation, the parents don't get information, and that's fine. I understand the privacy, right? But then we have to take into consideration the victims of these bullies. I had a meeting with Ms. Bomsey, Dr. Burrows, Mr. Barrs, Dr. Wormley, to address this at the high school, right? There is a gap in the process. There is a gap in the procedure. The procedure is only addressing the disciplinary actions for the bullies. It's not addressing what happens to those victims or even the bullies from the counseling part of it. It was mentioned that mental health is a big part of the concerns of the school, right? So how is that tying that together? There's that gap there. There's no communication. That communication is broken. And I've experienced this firsthand. So we need, the intention is not that to insult you. The intention is for us to look at what's broken and find a way to fix it. And that's how parents feel. That's how I felt when I was in that situation, because I had to kind of go around and around to really get some resolution. And I still haven't gotten the resolution that I'm looking for. I'm still waiting for responses back. I want to also talk about the mediation, the peer mediation program. That's a great process if it works. I had a situation where it did not work the way it was supposed to. So are we training our counselors and those that are involved in getting students together for peer mediation to really effectively deliver that program? So those are my comments.
Thank you for your voice. The mics are open in the room.
Excuse me. Joe Rooney, first, Ms. Charles, you're outstanding. Thank you for doing that. The second one is the parents that called tonight. I hope you keep calling. I'm not exactly sure if the school district agreed that there was a problem or not, but the parents know there is a problem. One thing I'm just curious about, and Mr. Fowle may know this or not, but was there a point when there was only 1 of 7 bathrooms open and available for the girls? And that's a pretty specific number. They could be wrong about that, but if you're in that whole school and there's only 1 bathroom for the girls, there needed to be something else done, whether it's porta potties or using teachers' bathrooms or closing the boys and opening it up to the girls. I don't know what it was. The second one is, I got a background in the Marine Corps. If you have a problem, Dr. Fetcher, use the resources that you have to get the problem solved. You just signed a new contract with chair of small department, climate officer, chair of large department, there's a whole list of people available right here to correct the problems that need to be solved. There's 12 psychologists, 8 curriculum specialists, 22 guidance counselors. All these people are available, and it says right in this contract that your days are a minimum 8 hours a day. If there's a problem with discipline or whatever, or Mr. Barrios needs a problem, those folks got to get over there and get that done. This shouldn't happen after tomorrow. Mr. Barrios knows that as a Marine also. I mean, you can fix these problems like that, and if those people are calling up and saying there's a problem, there's a problem. It may be an information problem, it may be some bad communication, but there's a problem that has to be fixed as far as that stuff's concerned. I hope they call again. I hope they call tonight and say if they feel like they got their answers. I didn't get any answers. I understand there was a committee of board members for this contract. I'd like to know who was on that committee. That wasn't answered. The other one is on a completely different sidebar. We heard about last month was Black History Month. This is Women's History Month, so I'll just throw it out to you all. I know some of y'all have taken women's studies in college. What is a woman if we're talking about women's history? So define it for us. You know, I have a good idea what it is, and I like to see in here in this contract it actually says himself and herself, because we all know there are 2 sexes. I don't know what they teach there, but that's it. There's male and female. And does women's history include wives and mothers? Because there's some unbelievably wonderful wives and mothers that need to be highlighted too, because they have made the world go around and we'd be nowhere without them. The last thing is St. Patrick's Day is coming up for all the Irish there. I know I don't have any idea if any of you know what it is, but St. Patrick's Day is this Friday, and March is also the month of Lent. It's Lent all month long. So for all our Christian brothers and sisters, and I don't know if any of them know any either, but so we can highlight that. Thank you.
Mhm. If there are any other speakers within the room, there are mics to the left and to the right of you. Please be sure to state your name and address. We have 2 callers on the line.
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 2161. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, this is Beskar from Chester Avenue.
Hi, we can hear you. Thank you.
Hi. First, I'd like to thank Dr. Fetcher, Mr. Kay, Mr. Muhammad, and Dr. Mowry for your outstanding questions and observations. I really appreciate the robust discussion that first comment period generated amongst the board. That really was helpful to me as a parent to hear some of those things, some of my concerns being echoed. I'd like to kindly ask Mr. File to reconsider his comments about students being untruthful regarding locked bathrooms. The problem with the pipe was not the beginning of the bathroom problems in the middle school. It certainly was a problem, but it wasn't the first one, and it's not the long-standing one either. Please try to view the bathroom situation from the perspective of a young teenage girl with a new and perhaps irregular menstrual cycle. Along that line of thinking, I'd like to propose that our building administrators try being subjected to the same bathroom availability as our students. Although our teachers probably understand the situation better than anyone, most adults take for granted that we can generally use the bathroom whenever we need to. Kids don't have that same reality, specifically while in school. Not only do kids have to ask permission, they often have to wait for another student to return before they can leave. With students having to go from the 3rd floor to the ground floor, wait in line, go all the way back upstairs, there are far fewer opportunities for bathroom use. The fully staffed numbers for both the middle school and the high school seem really, really low in comparison to the number of students in both buildings. In terms of bathroom monitoring, I would like to ask that gender-appropriate monitors be put in place, that is to say, women monitoring the women's bathroom and men monitoring the men's bathroom. That is not consistently how it is now. I'd like to thank you for your sincere discussions and for taking our concerns very seriously. Have a great night.
Thank you. Mr. Lutz?
Our next citizen for public comment is phone number ending in 6500. Please state your full name and address.
Hi, my name is Serena Breen, Runner Street in Jenkintown.
Thank you. We can hear you.
Hi, yes. I know we're talking a lot tonight about, safety concerns and the fighting and bullying and, concerns regarding plumbing issues and et cetera. And we are getting some answers and, having some discussions that hopefully will get us some resolutions as parents. And I know I speak for a lot of members of the community that don't necessarily know how to get their voices heard. One of the things that I wanted to present to the board and administration is the fact that a lot of the support staff that we have especially in our upper schools is, the job of the guidance counselors who, are quite overwhelmed with a lot of the needs of these kids that have been, in a very traumatic environment for the past several years. Obviously, as we know, coming from the environment of COVID, et cetera, then coming back into the schools, into these expectations of behaving as they did before. And one of the things that I bring up and bring to the table is the idea of potentially bringing more support staff in, such as social workers and things of that nature, that are actually licensed to do things like behavioral therapy, behavioral support on a full-time basis, so that these kids can get more mental health support that they need, to be better citizens in school, to help alleviate some of these issues that we're having as far as behavior is concerned, and to help to try and make the school a safer environment for everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for your voice.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Lutz, can you confirm that there are no additional callers on the line?
That is confirmed.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers within the room? Dr. Fetcher?
First, I'd like to address the fact that I said it was an insult And it is an insult to assert that things were purposely brushed under the rug. I would like to also validate the second part of that comment and say that, yes, not everything has gone in a perfect manner, and that there's a lot of area of growth, and that communication needs to be increased. I definitely recognize that, but my reason for saying an insult is because when someone says something is brushed under the carpet, it means that they purposely keep it away from people. Whether or not people are receiving that or not, I totally understand that, and I respect that. And as a parent, I understand that if one is not receiving the information that they would desire, that is a problem. But it is insulting to say that people are purposely brushing things under the carpet. That is not the intent of this administration, nor is it the intent of any one of my administrators in our buildings. If there's more information that needs to be sought by a parent and they're not getting the answer from the building administration, then I ask that they contact me. If they speak to the principal and they do not get that information, or they feel that they are not properly addressing the situation, then contact me and I will address that with the administrator. In terms of the deployment of administrators to the building, I previously mentioned that in this board meeting, that we have deployed members of our central staff to the building. I also accounted that I was there myself many times, and today being one of them, to address that. So I'd just like to reiterate something I said earlier today. And I would also like to agree with the need for as many social workers and guidance counselors that we can afford within our budget. It is the most powerful and effective way to address student behaviors, and it is definitely a need within our community and society, especially after the last few years. So, you know, I agree with that statement. But I would also like to take a moment to applaud the efforts of many of our guidance counselors and our staff, school psychologists, and our guidance counselors for addressing some of the mental health issues that are far more extensive than they ever have been. And I applaud them. And, you know, we work together through the administration and the guidance counselors when there are student situations to develop a plan to address the students and also to provide the proper supports that students need.
Thank you. That takes us to closing comments from my fellow.
Can I ask two questions,
Yes.
please?
Mhm.
So my first question is related to the comment that was brought up about what options do parents and victims of a situation have? What are their options if they don't feel like the problem has been resolved the way it needs to be resolved, and they're feeling like there's questions that still need to be answered? What can they do?
So in terms of if, you know, my first reaction to that is I always ask if a parent has an issue, if they have had the opportunity to speak with the building principal. And if that is not resolved, we have a communication guide, and that would then come to me as I supervise the principals and Dr. Melchor.
Can we pull that up on the school district website?
Sure.
It has the hierarchy of, and I believe there are clickable links, so that if you do not get an answer within a reasonable time, this is where you need to go next. So you see the classroom teacher, the school principal or supervisor, the administrative department, and they're separated. So if it's an equity issue, if there's a student services issue, issue with the teacher, human resources issue, those are all clickable links, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. And then finally, that fourth one is the assistant superintendent or if I'm not mistaken, yep, office of superintendent. I know my hierarchy. So this is a place where you can go. It's on the district's website. The reason why the hierarchy is there is because there are a lot of issues that are solved that we don't hear about at that building level. And that's where our administrators don't get a lot of the thank yous because they don't make it to that office of superintendent. So I'm going to take a pause to say thank you for all of the issues that you handle at the school level, and that's why we have that hierarchy. And then we have items such as the one that we heard of today that makes it to the office of superintendent, and those are issues that that the administration team will deal with. So you can find this here, clickable links, and I think, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I empathize with students that are experiencing bullying or harassment, and it's helpful to see sort of this chain of communication. But if I'm a student experiencing persistent bullying, I just want it to stop, right? And so, like, I think that's what I'm hearing from these calls of, like, it's great that there's a system, but I just want it to stop. And so, like, what then is available to me to have it go away, right? And so I've heard some of the things that are happening, which is great to hear, but is it enough? Is it happening quickly enough? You know, if I'm a student in that school, one day is too many days for me to be experiencing it, you know? And so then I think my follow-up question to that then is, there was an interesting question and comment made by a caller about mental health counseling and the role of our counselors and our psychologists in addressing some of this and being more proactive than reactive. So can you talk through a little bit about what support staff is available for students and what they do on a day-to-day basis and what that looks like for, you know, student support?
Yeah, I would suggest that we do an orientation at the next board meeting to go through student support services. We have done one previously, but I think based on the concerns that have come out this evening, at our next board meeting, I'll ensure that our staff does an orientation to go through the complete services that are available and steps that we take, as well as addressing some of our policies, for instance, our bullying policy and our harassment policy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think that's all the questions I have. I'd like to hear more just about, you know, what is available to our students, and there's been a lot of things that have been covered here today, which I appreciate hearing about, but I think we do need to continue to be communicating to the parents, because I heard a lot of frustration and a lot of fear in the calls tonight, and so, you know, being able to communicate to parents more consistently about how we're looking to address these challenges, I think, is really important, because lack of information leads to more fear and more questions, which is really normal. And I certainly can empathize with those feelings that people are having right now.
Any other questions or comments before we end with our final comments? Mr. Allen?
I would just like to acknowledge the 3-year agreement with the Act 93 group here, and Ms. Brown, you had said, like, the building levels, you handle a lot that before anything gets to up here or this room or Dr. Fetcher, Dr. Malcor's office, and that is appreciated. And I know that often it's tough when you hear people call in and they voice a concern. You may instantly want to get defensive, and think like, well, no, we have this flow chart, we did all of these things. What I hear is when someone comes to this room and voices a concern, it's because they just have that internal frustration, and it can come off as accusing someone is not doing their job or not playing their role. But I think it's important to take a step back and know that they're working with half information. Some of it might not even be true because it's rumors and whatnot. And also, they're not privy to all information like everybody is in this room because of FERPA and different privacy rights. So it's important, like, not to, I think when we hear these calls in, not to internalize it, that it's an assumption that someone's not doing their job. It's just that they're concerned and they want to voice and be heard. So I'm sitting back and listening to this and kind of hearing some of the comments and some of the facial reactions in the room, and just know that I don't think that this is accusatory, that anybody's blaming that the world's falling apart. It's just that they're fearful and concerned, and maybe some more communication or whatever it is. Or it just is kind of what it is, because you can't tell parents that little Brian was suspended for 3 days. And that the victim's family wants to know what happened, and they're not going to feel peace until they're told what happened. That in school, kids have rights to their privacy and their records, and we're not entitled to know what the consequence was for the other student. And it just is what it is. It's nothing that anybody in this room can solve. It's FERPA. So I kind of married two comments. One, I was complimenting the administrators and thanking you for all of your hard work, and then I went into the diatribe of not feeling attacked. They're separate, so don't marry those together. But I do appreciate the hard work of the administration and everything that you do. It is first class. As an administrator in another district, I will tell you, I see the work product that you all put out there, and it is incredible. I come to this board meeting, I read all of the memos, and I learn every time I open the computer through board docs or listen to you. And even though I've heard the same presentation multiple times throughout the years, every time I hear something new, I learn something new. So keep doing everything that you do. It is appreciated. And I'm glad that there's a 3-year, Dr. Mallory, or am I rambling? I have a tendency to do that. Thank
No,
you,
I'm
Mr.
riveted.
Because
Ignore him.
Okay, that's all.
Now
Thank
you
you.
say.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. Ms. Frazier?
I guess a couple of things. I'd like to thank the board for your compassion. It's evident that you're caring and that you're empathetic to the calls and just some of the situations that we're experiencing here. And again, it's national. We said the idea of fighting and conflicts and COVID over 3 years didn't help matters. And nonetheless, I hear and I see compassion in the room, and I thank you for that. The other thing is I'd like to thank Ms. Karima Boyd for inviting the board to her school. She's a principal over at Overlook for the one school, one school, one book. And so I truly enjoyed reading to a group of second graders the first chapter, and I was so inspired by the book. Someone help me out, name the book. Here's a homework assignment. Someone name the book.
How to Make Sunshine.
How to Make Sunshine. And I was inspired by that book because a lot of kids have names that are difficult to pronounce. And not that some of the names in that chapter was difficult to pronounce, but it addressed just the nuances of names. And I was inspired by it. So I have a wall outside of my class. It's called Wall of Fame. And I have kids that come from diverse backgrounds. They're Russian, Ukrainian, Uzbek, Georgian, African, you name it. And so I had them put on, it's like pretty paper, their name. It says name, origin, and meaning. And the kids are so thrilled to see, their names, and you see Arabic and Hebrew and Russian and Uzbek, and it's just awesome. So thank you for the invitation.
Mr. Kay?
Nothing other than thank you for the discussion and thank you for all the hard work people are doing, have done and will do for this issue that is has permeated every level of society and keeps doing it and has for generations, it seems. So we're only urging it after listening to some folks who remind us of some of the fear that's out there. I would like to say the other thing, one caller did bring up something that I think is always good to remember is that kids really don't have that much power. And when they're freaking out and they're afraid and things are going on, that's what we're here for, you know, and so we have to help them out, and we do, and you do all the time. But it's different when you can get up and go to the bathroom whenever you want, and if somebody talks rough to you, you can fight back, and when you don't have to worry about somebody else telling, you know, misunderstanding what's going on. And just the fact that with the hormones and everything else that's going on, man, that's a crazy time, and thank you for anything and everything all you are doing to help their lives get a little bit better.
Thank you. Dr. Mowry?
I just want to thank Dr. Fetcher for his willingness to organize an orientation for us at the next meeting, so that parents have an opportunity to understand in more concrete detail the resources that are available to them and to their students. I think that's an important step. I also want to note that in addition to being Women's History Month, March is also the start of Ramadan, and so I would like to wish our Muslim brothers and sisters Ramadan Mubarak.
Thank you. Ms. Glasser?
No more comments, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad?
Yeah. I want to thank the parents who called in and shared their concerns. We don't know unless the community is telling us. Leadership is sometimes looking at the worst, being honest about the worst, having open and honest discourse about the worst, and then working with the team to fix it. Right? And so hearing from those parents in the past, hearing from them tonight, getting input from the community is always the spark that drives real change in our society. And so I implore parents to continue sharing your concerns. Let us know your perception of things. And I also, want to make it clear that in these schools, we're talking about thousands of young people and in some cases hundreds of adults. And a school's climate is shifting with the various decisions that individual young people and individual adults make. And our district's climate is just a collection of all of those decisions. And so I look forward to continuing the conversation about how we can work as a collective to improve the climate that we have, elevate the good, and work on the worst. Happy Women's History Month, blessed Lent, happy St. Patrick's Day, Ramadan Mubarak to all of the Muslims in the community.
Thank you. Ms. Fazy?
First of all, congratulations to all your administrators on your contracts, and thank you for all the work that you do. Also, thank you to Principal Boyd for inviting us to the school. I got to read to first graders, and they were amazing, and it was the start of Women's History Month, and so when I asked them what they were learning, they all told me about various women that they were learning about in class, and it really warmed my heart, and it was very, very exciting to be with them. And I really enjoyed the One School, One Book. We did it within Rydell, and I read my kids a book, which was The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, and they loved it, and they had such a good time reading that, and so I really love that program. Also, going on to tonight's conversation, I want to thank everybody for the very rigorous and good conversations that we're having about safety, about the rights of our students, about dignity of our students, is what I believe it all comes down to at the bathrooms. And I just want to, when we have these conversations, it can feel easy to feel defensive sometimes or accusatory, but I just wanted to remind everybody that we are all here for the students to go ahead and make sure that they're safe, to make sure that they are being provided dignity, to make sure that they are being provided privacy, and we are all on board with that goal of to do that for these kids. And we are all working every day to do that for these kids, and that's the reason that we're here, that's the reason why our board members are here, and that's the reason that you guys all come here every day to work for our kids. And so I appreciate all of you, and thank you for the conversation here tonight.
Dr. Kleiman?
I agree with everything that my colleagues have said, so I won't belabor the point. I did just want to clarify one issue that came up during a comment regarding biological sex versus gender, and I just wanted to clarify for those who are not aware that sex refers to status as female, male, or intersex. There are not only two sexes, and that is different than gender, which is a social construct. So for National Women's Month, all women, including those who were not assigned as female at birth, are considered women, and that includes those who choose to have children, those who don't, those who choose to work, those who don't, and all the varied things that women do across the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kleiman. Dr. Fetcher?
Nothing further.
Thank you. And for me, my last comment is Village Stand Up. You have told me that through either email or for those of you who know me personally that you are ready to come together and do the work. Stand up. And let's get the work started. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.